Hello, hello, and how is everybody today? We are currently reading The Sun's Babies by Edith Howes. She was a New Zealand author who actually was born in England, I think. Um, but she was also a teacher, and she believed that children learned better by actually seeing how what they were learning about related to real life. And one of the things that she brought into place for making that work was writing some children's stories that talked about real things but using fantasy language as part of telling the story and actually portraying the story so that young children would actually be a little bit more interested but also understand, because most of their storytelling at that stage is usually based on fantasy, like fairies and elves and things like that. And so she would tell stories that were based on real nature and real life cycles and things like that, but use some concepts such as tree fairies and things like that as having a role to play, so that children could grasp what that was about. So there you go. We've been reading a whole lot of different stories about various things. We've had dragonflies, frogs, fish, barnacles, fruit flowers on trees, vegetables. I'm pretty sure we've had some sort of vegetable in there. I can't remember. All sorts. And I'm not sure, but I think today may be the last day that we're reading from this book, because I think that today we are finishing this book. And it's a collection of little stories. Sorry, I've just been having a wee snack. So, for those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Jev. I read old-fashioned children's stories. It's a great way to help us to get out of mentally the place that we're currently in and enjoy being somewhere else for a while, to give our brains a break, to give our emotions and bodies a break as well. Something a little bit more positive maybe than most of what's going on around us at the moment. I've been doing this for about a year and a half, on and off, and the stories I read are either ones that I've grown up reading and my parents and my grandparents have read them too, or ones that were written around the same era as the books that we have all grown up reading. I don't chat during the reading in terms of interacting with the chat that's on screen, but I do chat in the chapter breaks, or section breaks in this book. It doesn't actually have chapters. And one of the things I do, which makes it more like a bedtime story than an audiobook, is if I come across a word or a phrase or a concept or something that I think is a little bit different to what people these days are going to understand, but it's something that I understand, I will often pause in the middle of reading to explain that, just to make it a little bit easier for people to follow. And apparently people like that, because it's just like what you do with bedtime stories. Anyway, cool. And if you're in chat and I ask about a word, you're most welcome to look it up, type it in the chat, and then, or some concept, type up what you found in the chat, and then, yes, that I will include while I'm actually reading. Possibly. No guarantees. Also, I'm ADHD as well as on the autistic spectrum, and sometimes I just get a little bit lost. I'll be halfway through a sentence and my eyes will skip a line or something like that, and then I have to find the line. It happens. It's real life. That's the way real life goes. So that's the end of all the blether at the beginning. Here we go. The Sun's Babies by Edith Howes, and we are reading the section called A Trip into the Country. And I forgot something you forgot to tell me. I do have 3 things that I suggest just about every time. I try to remember it every time. Have something handy to drink, preferably water, because you've got to keep your brain working, and hydration is good for that, but you can have a favourite other drink otherwise. Something to snack on, and somewhere comfortable to sit. And it's quite okay if you're just listening to me in the background while you're working or studying or something like that. I don't require you to give me all your attention. It's not that sort of story. But we'll carry on. A Trip into the Country. Always do what I tell you, and you are sure to be right, said Mr. Bantam. Chuckety chuck, Biddy Bantam, don't make eyes at me. Chuckety chuck it, chuckety chuck. I see a fine new perch across the yard. Let's all go and stand on it. I would rather stay here, said Biddy Bantam. Besides, I don't think that new perch is safe. Nonsense, it's as strong, said Mr. Bantam. Come on, Bessie Bantam too. He strutted round the two little hens and hustled them across the yard. I don't like the look of it, said Biddy crossly. It came in on those two big wheels this morning and a horse was pulling it. How do we know it won't go out again? You can easily jump off if it does, can't you? Cried Mr. Bantam. Chuckety, chuckety, chuck. What a fuss you make. Follow me and you will be quite safe. He flew up and settled himself on the perch. It is certainly cool in the shade of that big box on top, said Bessie. She flew up beside Mr. Bantam. Oh, well, since you're both up, I suppose I may as well come, said Biddy, and she too flew up. It was very hot and still in the yard. The Bantams put their heads under their wings and went to sleep. They slept on, not knowing how time was passing, till dark. Now, the perch they were on was the axle of a farmer's cart, and the big box, as Bessie called it, was the cart itself. After dark, the farmer put his horse in again and drove away home, not knowing that there were three little Bantams fast asleep on its axle. It was a drive of 4 miles, but the Bantams never woke till the glare of a lantern made them open their eyes and blink. The farmer was taking his things out of the back of the cart. When he saw the Bantams, he whistled in surprise. Well, of all the funny things, he cried, these must be Nellie White's Bantams. They have evidently perched on my axle and ridden home with me. I must take them back tomorrow, or Nellie will think they are lost. He took them gently off the perch and put them in a box. What did I tell you, Mr. Bantam? Said Biddy. Here we are, shut up in a horrid dark box. Nobody knows what will happen to us next, and all because we followed your advice. Never mind, said Bessie. It is snug and warm in here, and we can sleep comfortably till morning anyway. Mr. Bantam had nothing to say. The next day the farmer took them back to Nellie White. She was delighted to see them again, and they were delighted to be back in their own yard. I really thought we were going to be killed and eaten, said Mr. Bantam. Never talk to me about new perches again, said Biddy. The fright I've had. Well, after all, no harm has come to us, said Bessie, and we can all say we've had a trip into the country, even if we were asleep when we went. On to the next section. Grey King. The pigeons left their house and flew out for their morning exercise. Up and down and round they went in a flock. Follow me, called the leader. Fly fast and swoop. The white of their under wings flashed as they passed, and they made a soft silken rustle as they skimmed lightly through the air. It was beautiful to watch them. But Mr. Grey King sat on top of the house and would not exercise. He was the swiftest flyer amongst them, and had won so many races that he had grown conceited. No, he said, I am going to rest. I can easily beat you all without any practice. But the great race of the year is to come off in a fortnight, said the others. Pigeons from all the countryside will be flying. Think what a disappointment it would be to everyone if a stranger won. We look to you to uphold the honour of our house. Grey King only laughed. Haven't I won every race for years? He asked. The honour of our house is safe, for no stranger can beat me. He turned himself round and round in the sunshine, fluffed out his grey feathers proudly, and sat down on the housetop again. Every day while the others exercised, he sat there, watching their movements and giving them plenty of good advice, but feeling quite certain that he had no need to join them. The day before the great race, the pigeons were all put into their boxes and sent away by train to their starting point. Grey King is sure to win, I suppose, said a friend to the master as he helped him place the pigeons in their boxes. I thought so till a fortnight ago, said the master, but he has not been exercising lately. I cannot understand what is the matter with him, but I am afraid he has no chance of winning. He did not know that Grey King's only ailment was conceit. Grey King was angry. How absurd to say I have no chance, he thought. I'll show him how superior I am when I start. I feel quite upset. He fussed and fumed for a long time in his box before he could settle down to the train journey. When they were set free the next day, he started off for home with a great sweep of wings to show how well he could fly. He was soon ahead of all the rest, but there was a headwind, and he had grown fatter and heavier with sitting about so much. His muscles were soft from want of exercise. Soon he began to tire and to fly more and more slowly. One by one the others passed him, and the race was won by a stranger. Grey King came home last, tired out and utterly ashamed. I will never again be too proud to exercise, he thought. It serves me right. And that's the end of that section, and I am going to have a drink and maybe a snack. You can too. Ooh, crackers with cheese. Crackers with cheese and what they call fruit salami, which is actually figs and almonds all pushed together and dried in the shape of a salami. Very yummy with tangy cheese. That weird rattling sound was me wiping my fingers on a tissue. No worries about it. Right, on to the next section. Don't forget, we're reading The Sun's Babies by Edith Howes, and this is The Season Fairies. In the days of long ago, 4 fairies stood before the sun. You shall be the season fairies, he said, for he was the king of the year. The sun. To the first he gave a robe of green and a silver wand. Take these, he said, and fly slowly up and down over the earth from pole to pole. As you pass, each land shall clothe itself in green to match the colour of your robe. As you wave your silver wand, all baby things shall spring from their winter cradles and begin to grow. Take with you rousing winds and showers to wake the babies from their sleep, and 1,000,000 warm and golden sunbeams in which to fold the tender growing things when they have risen. The spring fairy went forth in her robe of green, waving her silver wand. As she flew from land to land, the earth clothed itself in green to match the colour of her robe, and all baby things sprang from their winter cradles and began to grow. Sorry, I've got something in my... Okay, carry on. Probably a fig seed. To the next fairy he gave a rosy robe and a wand wreathed in flowers. Take these, he said, and follow spring, for you are summer. As you pass from land to land, the earth shall blossom out, and 1,000,000 flowers shall shine above the green of spring. The baby things shall grow to their full size and beauty, and shall proudly wave their flowered heads. Take with you bright cloudless heat, and long fine days, and soft night dews. The summer fairy followed her sister spring. As she went, 1,000,000 flowers blossomed out above the green, and the baby things grew up to their full size and beauty. To the third fairy he gave a robe of red and a wand of gold. Follow summer, he said, for you are autumn. As you pass from land to land, the blossoms of the earth shall change to fruit. The grown-up babies shall make cradles for the babies of next year. Red and brown shall turn the leaves. Red and purple shall hang the berries, and as you wave your wand, the corn that covers half the land shall change to gold. Take with you still hot days and little creeping evening winds. The autumn fairy went forth with her crimson robe. As she passed, the blossoms changed to fruit. The grown-up things made cradles for the babies of next year. To the last fairy, just a moment, I'm just checking what's happening on my other monitor. It was flickering. Sorry, carrying on. To the last fairy he gave a robe of white and a sparkling wand of diamonds. Sparkling wand of diamonds. You are winter, he said. As you pass, you shall lull all growing things to their season's sleep and rest, that they may wake refreshed when spring returns. Take with you rain and hail and ice and frost, and the white snow covering for the sleeping earth. The winter fairy followed her sister Autumn up and down the earth from pole to pole. As she went, all growing things folded themselves away for their season's rest. Crackers. Yeah, except for the tropics. They don't actually have the snow and the frost, those things. And we get rain all times of year here in this part of New Zealand. But the idea, and most people live in countries where you have this going on with the season extremes. Spring Story is the next section, and it's based probably on these season fairies. Elise lay on a couch in an open window trying to grow strong again. She had been hurt and had to lie here for a year. As she had always been an outdoor girl, she found it hard to stay so long indoors, but the sunbeams and the little winds came in to play with her. Her favourite tree outside the window made funny leaf shapes to amuse her, and best of all, the season fairies came to tell her the doings of the outdoor world. This is what the spring fairy said. Each day the sun shines more brightly, and everything is waking from its winter sleep. The spring wind knocks at the close-shut doors of the winter houses, and calls again and again till they are opened. Buds burst, leaves and flowers dance out, and everything is gay. In the garden plots, crocuses and snowdrops and golden daffodils nod to one another across the ground. Primroses and violets scent the air, and hyacinths ring their merry chimes. Pink-tipped daisies open their golden eyes here and there on the lawn. The grass blades shoot up, straight and green. I flew through the kitchen garden on my way here. The radishes have already sent up 2 thick leaves, and the young cabbages stand in stiff rows like soldiers, each trying to grow a heart. I peeped under the ground. There everything is sprouting. The peas and beans have burst open at the sides, and strong white shoots have come out. The potatoes are growing stems out of their eyes, and are sending down white roots to search for water. Under the ground, too, the young grubs are waking up and moving fast, ready to devour all they can find. Down in the fruit garden, the trees are a glorious mass of white and pink, for cherry trees and plum trees, apple trees and pear trees are all decked out in their sweet spring dresses. The air is filled with their fragrance, and snowy petals soon begin to float on every little wind. The bees are busy there, gathering honey and pollen to take home to the newly hatched bee grubs. The gooseberry and currant bushes have opened their queer little flowers to the bees, and low on the ground the strawberry spreads its white petals, inviting them to its honey feast. In the pool below the fruit garden, queer swimming creatures rush eagerly about in search of food, for the warmth of the spring has reached them. One day they are to grow into gnats or mosquitoes or dragonflies, but they are not thinking about that just now. All their thoughts are on their meals. From grass blades and leaves everywhere, the tiny eggs are hatching that were laid by moths and butterflies. Caterpillars creep out from them to wander off in search of food. In the wheat field, millions of green blades are shooting up. On the roadside, grasses and thistles, dandelions and ragwort, and 100 little weeds are pushing and jostling each other for their summer places. The hedges are shining with the gold of gorse and broom. In the trees, dainty nests are being made for eggs as dainty as the nests. A tender bleating rises all day from the meadow at the foot of the hill, for there the mother sheep watch over their snowy lambs. The lambs frisk and gambol on the soft grass, and the mothers call to them with the mother note that has come with the spring. So lambs have a very high bleat, and mother sheep have a very low bleat. And now we have a poem. Springtime. Springtime is a merry time. A merry time is spring. The little birds come out for straws. They build and hop and sing. The daffodils and crocuses spread out their golden heads. Sweet cowslips hang their scented bells above the garden beds. The cherry trees are white with flowers. The apple trees are pink. The green leaves wrapped in woolly buds peep out at you and wink. The winds rock lightly in the trees, the sunbeams dance and play. Come out, the sky is blue, the world is fresh and gay. I'm going to now, this is a chapter break, I'm having a drink of water. What about you? And a snack. We're in early summer here in New Zealand now. We've just had one of our summer storms, I suppose you'd call it. They come down from the tropics. And here is, it's a little hard to see, a petal of one of the roses that grows in the hedge alongside our driveway. Great big sprays of roses, clusters and clusters of these flowers on the end of these long branches and all the way along it. And so bright, such bright pink colours. And when they die and the petals fade, they fade to this interesting purple colour, which is quite fun. Anyway, on to the next section. Summer story. With the summer came the summer fairy. She said, "The sun is high in the sky. At noonday the air shimmers with the heat. The flower garden is gay with roses and poppies and Canterbury bells. The lawns and clipped hedges are like green velvet. Down in the vegetable garden," this is obviously talking to the girl who's sitting in the window, I think. "Down in the vegetable garden the peas and beans are filling their pods and the cabbage soldiers have all grown hearts. The mother potatoes are feeding their little ones with their own white bodies. The turnips and carrots are swelling as fast as they can. Under the ground, some of the caterpillars have coiled themselves up and gone to sleep. Others have finished their sleep and have flown out on many-hued wings as butterflies or moths. In the fruit garden, the trees are green. The flowers have long ago dropped their petals and shut their doors while they make their seeds. The strawberries and cherries are nearly over. The gooseberries and currants and raspberries are ripe, but the apples and pears and plums are green and hard on the trees. The bees have left the orchard and betaken themselves to the flower garden, but the birds are feasting royally in the gooseberry and currant bushes. I peeped into the pool below the fruit garden. The young gnats and dragonflies have crept up the bushes for their great change, and from there have flown away, when this was over, to earn their living like the rest of the world. In the wheat field the green corn stands high and waves its tasselled flowers in the summer breezes. The grasses and weeds on the roadside are all in flower. In the meadows the lambs have grown big and the sheep are gladly being shorn of their hot woolly coats. The young birds are leaving their nests in the trees and learning to fly. The fathers and mothers teach them with infinite love and care. There was a great commotion in the beehive this morning, for a young queen had wakened from her chrysalis sleep, and the old queen in her jealousy would have stung her to death. There was much running about and loud buzzing. Everybody was too excited to think of going out to look for honey, but at last they came to an agreement, and some of the bees went with the old queen to look for a new home, while the rest stayed in the hive with the new queen. The old queen flew to an apple tree in the orchard. Her people surrounded her in a dense mass to protect her till a hive was brought and they were safely housed. Tomorrow they will be as busy as can be, making their new honeycomb. Already they have started. And I would say that's probably based on what bees really do with swarming and moving hives. Anyway, next poem, Summertime. Roses red, roses white, up the hedges climb. Gardens are a lovely sight, this is summertime. Clover red, clover white, bloom among the grass. All the world is filled with light, skies are clear as glass. Cherries red, cherries white, show with each new breeze. Linnets sing in sweet delight, high on rocking trees. Now, just a wee aside, we've had a book previously called linnets and valerians. Now, the linnets in the book was actually a family of children, and their surname was Linnet. And linnets, obviously, are a bird that live in England. And I don't know if I've ever heard one. I must find out about that. Interesting. I wonder what they sound like for them to actually mention them instead of, say, starlings or blackbirds or skylarks as a bird that sings. Anyway, I'll have a drink of water and then we'll carry on with the next section. Autumn story. The autumn fairy said, "The sun is a little lower in the heavens now, but at morning and evening the land flames with the gold and red of his royal robes." Gold and red, these are the autumn colours, the colours of the fruitage that fulfills the promise of the spring. Asters and dahlias and tiger lilies are blooming in the flower pots, and seeds ripen in the places of the flowers that were there in summer. Pop, pop, what a constant noise the pods keep up as they burst and scatter their seeds. It is so loud that it almost drowns the buzzing of the bees. Out jump the seeds as far as they can to find a new home for themselves. I watched a beetle as he walked under a larkspur. A pod burst above him and scattered its seeds on his head. "How those great nuts hurt," he cried. "It is not safe to remain under this tree," and he hurried off to a safer place. To him the larkspur seemed a giant tree, and its seeds huge nuts. In the fruit garden there is rich harvest, for plums and pears, apples and peaches and apricots gleam with red and gold amidst their tinted leaves. The chestnuts are ripe in their prickly nests, and the walnuts fall with a thud and split open to show their fine shells. Did you know that? Walnuts, you've probably seen them. They're a nut about this big. When they're on the tree, they have a coating around the outside, a little bit, very, very, very vaguely like the outside of an apple around it. And then when they fall, that actually starts to break away. There you go. In the wheat field, the golden corn falls before the sharp knives of the reaper, and the sheaves are set in stooks, ready for carrying. This is obviously when it's done by hand. There is dismay among the larks and field mice, for their shelter is taken from them, but the heart of the farmer is glad for the richness of the crop. On the roadside the grasses bow their heavily seeded heads, begging the wind to carry their children to a good growing place. The thistle seeds rise up on their own shining wings and float away to find a place for themselves. We used to call them thistle fairies, those little pom-pommy things with a tiny little seed in it, and it's just little wee threads outwards that float on the wind. The nests in the trees are deserted, for the little birds have grown up and now perch on the branches with the older ones. From some of the trees the tired leaves are dropping one by one. They have done their work well, so the tree mother gently loosens them from the branches and gives them leave to rest. And now it's autumn time poem. Autumn time is apple time, time for pears and plums. Corn is golden in the fields, how the reaper hums. Lilies shine in garden plots, berries in the bush, brown pods burst along the hedge, where the ripe seeds push. Come with me to orchard land, grass will do for chairs, leaves fall off and tumble fast, so do juicy pears. And I'm going to have one more mouthful of water, because we're going to do the winter section. Winter story. The winter fairy said, "The sun is so busy on the other side of the world that he has not time to climb high in our sky. The Storm King, the Snow Queen, and Jack Frost have their way now. Turn and turn about, with no powerful sun to check them. Today it is Jack Frost's turn. He has drawn fairy pictures on your windows, frozen the little pool below the fruit garden, and flung glittering lacework over all the land." Have you seen that? I have. In the garden plots all the flowers have fled except the hardy winter roses. The fallen seeds have hidden themselves as far down under the warm earth as they could creep. Everything is resting. The fruit trees stand bare and brown and still, and you might think their life was gone, but on every branch sit the little buds which the tree mother made in the long days of the busy summer. They are snugly wrapped in thick woolly blankets till the sun returns and the air is warm again. Then they will fling aside their coverings and dance out in the wind. Everything is waiting for the spring. The flies have hidden themselves away under the grass and in the hedges, and have gone to sleep till the cold, dark days are done. Butterflies and moths have laid their last eggs and have hidden themselves away, to die, most of them. Bees keep close within their hives. The hum of insect life is stilled. The snails have buried themselves in the ground, sinking into their shells and fastening their little doors so tightly that no enemy can come in. Round the pond, too, the frogs have buried themselves in the soft mud to sleep till winter is over, leaving only openings enough for air. The wheat field is ploughed, that Jack Frost may break up the earth for next year's crop. On the roadside the empty grass heads stand, white and beautiful, with fine frostwork, but dead beneath their beauty. Of the birds who sang their joyous way through the other seasons, only the braver ones are left. The rest have flown to find a warmer land till spring returns. So ends the tale. And now we have Wintertime's poem. Snow, snow, how the winds blow. Across the sky the white flakes go. Their steps are fast, their steps are slow. They mean some mischief, that I know. Cold, cold, Jack Frost is bold. He nips the toes of young and old, but better laugh than cry and scold. Come for a slide with me, take hold. Run, run, the slide is done. We'll warm ourselves without the sun, for snow is here and frost's begun. The winter will be splendid fun. And that's the end of that section, and the end of our book. There you go. So, what are we going to read next? We're only halfway through our reading time for today. While I sort that out, I'm going to give you 2 links. The first one is for our Discord server. And over there, you can find other people to chat about old-fashioned books. There's not very many people there at the moment. It's very quiet. But you can also share illustrations that you think relate to the books. We are going to set up sections. We've started to with some of them, actually putting sections for the different books that we're doing. So if you find pictures that are relevant for that, or history about some of the authors or places that are mentioned, that's a great way to share them. And also sometimes when you're listening to a story, you have a picture in your mind. And one of the interesting things that happens sometimes is when you're just doing something else completely, you see a picture of something and you go, that reminds me of a story that I heard. And if you have that happen, share that picture on our Discord server and see if anybody else has come across it too, or if that's the picture that they had in their head, or if they had something else. And the second link, which you can see now in the chat box, is to our YouTube channel. Now, if you're watching this live, you're watching it on Twitch, and the videos stay here for 2 weeks, and then they get transferred to YouTube so that they can be put into playlists and people can listen to the whole of a book from start to finish, along with my chatter in between, if they want to. And so if you follow the link to our YouTube channel, you'll find other books that you can listen to, maybe ones that you've missed hearing when I was reading them live, maybe ones that you want to listen to again. There may be ones there that you've never heard of before. Here's your opportunity to discover something new, and maybe even discover authors that you didn't know of, or new books, well, not new books, other books by authors that you did know of. For instance, I have a friend who has one of her favourite stories is A Little Princess. Now, I'm pretty sure she's heard the other story that I read by the same author, but some people haven't. That story is called The Secret Garden. There you go. There are other stories like that. So see if you can, you're most welcome to go across to YouTube, join there, and listen to some more stories. I am going to have a look at what other books I have on my tablet. I use a very old first generation iPad mini for reading to you, because at the moment I don't have all my books out of their boxes. So I look through these books that I have on my iPad mini, and I have them on my iPad mini because it still works for going on the internet to look at the Project Gutenberg website, and also for showing me books so that I can read them. It won't update anything, it's too old, and I can't put any new apps on it, but I can use it for these books, which is wonderful. I like being able to still use old technology rather than having it go to waste. Now let's see if we can find a new story to listen to. We've had The Wind in the Willows, we've had The Princess and the Goblin and The Princess and Curdie, we've had The Secret Garden, we've had Through the Looking Glass, as well as Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. We've had, what else have we had? The Secret Garden, I've said that, I'm sure. Let's have another Edith Nesbit, I think it is. Edith Nesbit, 5 Children and It. She's the lady who wrote the Bastables series of books. The Would-Be Goods was one of them. The Treasure Seekers, The Adventures of the Treasure Seekers, and New Treasure Seekers. Adventures of the Treasure Seekers was the first one. Then The Would-Be Goods, where they were trying to behave themselves, was the second one. And then the third one was New Treasure Seekers, because they had some other adventures. Some of them were stories that were based around the time of the very first book, and other ones were after. I'm just going to write in here and update it for you. 5 Children and It by Edith E. Nesbit. Now, it's not going to change on my overlay at the moment for those of you watching on Twitch, but it should change in the information that's below the actual stream. And I will split those up when I put them onto YouTube so they're actually in 2 separate playlists. But here on Twitch, I'm going to carry on reading in this one. Or am I? No, I'm going to stop this and then I'm going to start it again. That's what I'm going to do. So stick with me. I'm not going away for long. Just keep watching your monitor. I will hit stop and then I'll hit start again and we'll read the new book. Okay? See you in a minute.